You surface from the underground at Piccadilly Circus,
Mind the gap.
making your way through the glittering lights of London's West End. You take a turn down a quaint-looking street into the notorious neighborhood of Soho. The lights are up, the crowd is buzzing, and you just stepped into the best seat in the house. Welcome to The Big Smoke, a variety show podcast. I'm Kevin Bennett, and I'll be your guide through this experience of comedy, conversation, and community. Today's episode really leans into the variety part of our podcast's name. First, we get serious, but not too serious, with yoga and mindfulness meditation teacher Sue Cheung, who helps us face our very real anxieties with some surprisingly accessible tools. Next up, we open the dusty lid on a brand new segment, Audio Archives, where we stumble upon a mysterious recording from a switchboard operator's final shift. Which call caused our poor operator's termination? And finally, we put on our Wellington boots and head down to the river. Sean Clark the Mudlark is back with the first of his regular reports into what's been finding him lately, sharing the odd, charming, and occasionally baffling things history has left on our shores. But first, it's time to play Maple Leaf or Make Believe. Here's how the game works. I will read out 3 different Canadian news headlines. One of these headlines is the real thing, Maple Leaf. The rest, Make Believe. Can you figure out which one is real? Here are the headlines. Headline number 1 from the Gander Beacon in Newfoundland and Labrador. Moosel Maps app helps Gander drivers steer clear from wandering steers. Headline number 2 from the Williams Lake Tribune in British Columbia. Recycling hero makes big haul of Williams Lake butts. And headline number 3 from the Brandon Sun in Manitoba. Butter Gretzky melts at Brandon Fair heatwave. Think you know which one's the real Maple Leaf? You'll find out at the end of the episode. It's time to welcome our first guest. She is a yoga and mindfulness meditation teacher at some of London's most popular studios. Let's all welcome Sue Cheung.
Sue, welcome to The Big Smoke.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
We have lots of different types of people on The Big Smoke, and we try to, I think it's important. One of the things I love is having conversations with unique people doing important and unique things out in the world, in London and beyond. And obviously when I read that you're a yoga and meditation teacher, but also specifically one of your programs is called the Anti-Anxiety Toolkit. And I saw that one. This is what we need. This is what the world needs. Can you tell us how you got into this line of work?
Going really far back to when I first heard about yoga, this was back in Toronto, and I was helping on a TV program as a volunteer. And there was a teacher called Rodney Yee. I think he's quite a well-known Chinese-American yoga teacher. And he was a guest, and he was promoting his book. And I got his book. And I was always quite fascinated or interested in physical modalities. So I got his book, and that was my first kind of experience with it. And I remember kind of dog-earing certain sequences. And
what do you mean when you say physical modalities? I just not
just
totally
movement,
sure. Okay.
Movement. So there was like Pilates, like I had a Thigh Master.
Okay. Okay.
You know, but I say physical modalities because I don't want to make yoga just about the physical.
I see.
Which is part of a bigger conversation, but it is just one part of the yoga tradition. That's how I sort of got into it. And then I moved here and I tried my first class. And what really hooked me was I had the best night's sleep after the class, and and that was it. And I just continued to practice. So I've been practicing for over 20 years now, or thereabouts. And so it's like a way of life.
And how did you get into teaching it as a profession? Did you practice for a long time before that?
So I was a pretty dedicated practitioner. I still am. One of my teachers, I was on a retreat with her, and she came up to me and she's like, have you considered doing your yoga training, teacher training? And I was like, no, not at all. But when she said that, I felt like the skies had opened up and there was this light shining on me because I was just such a dedicated practitioner, and I just, I didn't think I was ready. So initially I said no, and then I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought, what an opportunity for my teacher to teach me. And that was in 2011.
I read, I think it was on your website, that you say yoga and meditation are forms of, quote, change and liberation work. What does that mean?
The yoga and meditation are ways for us to turn inwards, away from the external environment towards the inner landscape. And we experience so much internal change. Like, we experience so much richness in our lives. And with the physical practice, it's manifest, right? We can actually feel sensations in our bodies. That's a way to like focus our attention to start. And when we're able to focus our attention and be still, or to be present in what we're doing, then things emerge. And in order for us to change, we need to be aware of what's there first.
I'm thinking about, I've done a few meditation classes and yoga classes in my life, but I wouldn't say I'm a regular practicer by any means. Really, the thing I want to dive into right away, which is just my issue, but I think it's an issue for a lot of people, which is the fact that there's so much noise right now in the world. And I find it really difficult. I work a lot at home. A lot of people do work from home. I'll just sort of be full disclosure. I really don't feel in control a lot of the time of what I take in. The other day, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, I thought to myself, I just want to focus and get some work done. But because a lot of the days I'm prepping for these podcasts and things like that from home, nobody's looking over my shoulder, kind of making sure that I tick off these things. So I can catch myself getting so easily distracted, whether it be going on Instagram or whatever it is, with all the different stimuli, that I really sometimes feel like I don't have control over my focus. What do you find is the hardest part for someone? Let's use me as an example. Okay, I've tried it here and there. I mentioned earlier I've done hot yoga, and I don't know if this is a common practice, but I feel like I was drawn to that because it felt more like exercise. I was like, I can feel the benefits of it. Whereas maybe in another yoga class, I don't notice the difference. Like, I'm not sweating, for example. Or, I go to the gym and I lift weights, I can feel sore or whatever. I can feel the effect. So what are the effects? When do we feel them? What should they be? For someone maybe like me who's like, I need to know, like, I want to see the benefit. You know what I mean? And maybe it's not quite as obvious. Talk to me about that.
It's a slow burn. It's a yoga practice. It's a meditation practice. And the more steady we are with the practice, the more arises, the more emerges. Like, so for example, a person could be in a balancing pose and they keep on falling out. And their response could be frustration. Like, oh, I can't, curse, do X, Y, Z. And that right there is awareness. You're like, oh, do you know what? My reaction is to get frustrated with myself. That's information. And that with that information, then we can create change. Back to your question about change, is that unless we're aware of something, we can't change it.
So what do you do in your class and maybe this is unique to individual teachers, I'm curious about, let's say I'm trying to do this pose and I keep falling out of it. Is part of your practice as a teacher to speak to me about that, or is it more of a general thing and something that I then take away? Or is that a conversation that then happens kind of in the class, or?
So I'll probably look at the room and notice how people are responding. But I tend to say, okay, we'll come out of the pose, close the eyes, and just pause. Notice what's arising. Notice what is coming up for you, and then let it go. Because it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just what's come up. And again, it's with that information, you can be like, oh, do you know, I talk so much. Can I swear?
Yes, go ahead.
I talk so much shit about myself. What's up with that? Like, how can I change? How can I be kinder to myself? Because I'm here. Like, I could be doing anything else, and I've decided to be here.
Maybe I've already said the answer to this, but what do you think is the thing that makes people, let's say I want to try out yoga, and then because it's a slower burn. What makes people stay with it, or what makes people sort of drop out after one or two classes? Oh, I'm not feeling more at peace or whatever. I know it's more than that, but I mean, like, what do you think keeps people in, or what can maybe we share that might keep someone in? Thinking about how, because from my perspective, I'm sort of a half outsider, half insider in the sense that I've done it. I've also, I went to drama school where there's lots of this type of work in the sense of being present, meditation, yoga. I'm a huge fan of The Power of Now. Eckhart Tolle changed my life, that book. So I really do feel like I'm aware of it, but I'm also the first to sort of give it up and quit.
The sense of steadiness to oneself, to stay with yourself despite all the stuff that's happening in your mind, all the thoughts, that sense of loyalty and steadiness to yourself. So, and this is taught by my teachers, but when we can sit in a meditation session, for example, your mind can be running off. Like, for example, my meditation practice this morning, my mind was like, beep, beep, boop, boop, and I was thinking about this podcast, but I was just like, oh, okay, well, oh, there I go, coming back. And so I could say, oh, that was a terrible meditation session because my mind was so busy the whole time. But I've kind of shifted my perspective and be like, I stayed steady. I just stayed with the practice. I just kept on coming back. And when you create that sense of loyalty to yourself, of course, not at the expense of other people, but just when you have that sense of loyalty to yourself, then you can move through the world in a way where you're not spewing all of your shit on other people.
Yeah, and in terms of I guess speaking about this thing of control or awareness or control, or wherever those two things come together, I'm thinking about my thoughts and my mind, and I'm wondering about how you connect this work to, I think I mentioned earlier, this thing that I can find myself just being easily distracted or checking my phone, and it's almost like I wasn't the one making the choice to do that. So how does this work relate to that, Because I feel like now more than ever, the big thing for me is this feeling like there's a lot of outside influences on our minds.
So I guess there's always going to be a moment when you're like, oh, there's so much stuff on my, like there's so much stuff out there. There's always going to be a moment where that starts. And so I guess it's fine tuning when that moment arises, and you can put a roadblock there and do some sort of practice, whether that's moving your body or just closing your eyes, meditating for like 2 breaths or something like that, coming back to you as opposed to what's outside of yourself.
And when you're doing, if I'm taking your yoga class or anybody's class, what am I doing with my mind? I was just thinking about that.
I don't know.
Yeah. What am I doing with my mind?
But our minds are always...
I don't know. What are you doing with your mind?
But but mindfulness in its simplest definition is placing your mind.
Okay. Placing your mind on something.
Our minds are always placed somewhere.
Yeah.
It's either, oftentimes it's in the past or in the future.
Tell me about it.
Right? But that's it. Like that's mindfulness. It's just knowing that we're always placing our minds somewhere and being cognizant of where it is and coming back to present moment. And that's not to say like you're always present. Like that's impossible. But it's building that muscle to like be like, oh, there I've gone. I'm going to come back. Because and I think perhaps this touches into why people keep coming back is that you have that direct experience of what it's like to be here. As you said, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. You have that experience of what it's like to come back. And you use these practices as a way to keep coming back.
Have you ever strayed away from your practice for periods of time?
My meditation practice, I was pretty dedicated for a long time. And then when I became pregnant, my meditation practice wasn't as my seated meditation practice, I should say, wasn't as disciplined as it was. But I still did the physical practice because it was very helpful for me. So not really.
No, that's good. That's impressive.
I mean, I'm like lax in many other ways.
Well, tell us which ways, so I feel good.
I don't know. We only have like an hour.
I know. What are the ways I'm lax? You have a lot of tools and programs and things, whether it be through your website or your classes, that I think are fantastic. And the one that really drew me in when I read, I said earlier, was Anti-Anxiety Toolkit. Just the title I love, because I think it's if anyone's going to not engage in, oh, there's a half an hour meditation class or a yoga class for an hour or whatever it is, there's going to be lots of excuses. Or I'm speaking from myself, I'm going to go, well, I should go to the gym because that's going to, I don't know, benefit me in a way. Like, it'll get me a date before a yoga class will. Or before I should say meditation, maybe. Yoga, I'm stretchy, I don't know what I'm saying. Flexible. Anyways, we won't go into that. But the question is, tell us about the Anti-Anxiety Toolkit, why you started it, and what that is. Is that meditation? Is that yoga? Is that a different thing that you've created in terms of your work?
So full disclosure, this title is taken from one of my coaching teachers, Melissa Tears. She's brilliant. So she came up with the Anti-Anxiety Toolkit. It's a book. And so as part of the coaching program I was in, she gave it to all the students. So I kind of took the title, and thank you, Melissa, and created a workshop where I included some of the techniques that she taught, but also techniques from yoga and also some from Qigong, which I've been practicing and I've really enjoyed. And what inspired it, I think it was Trump being elected.
This time or last time?
This time. So okay. I did it
so it's a recent
yeah, it's a recent thing. But yeah, I think it was in response to Trump winning.
Well, I mean, that sort of makes sense.
Yeah. So that's
So I've watched the video of it, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the techniques, and then maybe what we can do is you can talk us through one or two of them, leading me through it, and our listeners, if they're wherever they are in the world, can try them out. The first question I want to ask about it is, in general, maybe you just told me this, but are these tools from different practices? I know you said Qigong.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the tools in general and kind of how they work.
My thinking behind it for the workshop was I wanted to offer small, accessible resources that you can use at any point. And to what you had mentioned earlier about, doing a half-hour class or, half a meditation or going to the gym, like I just wanted to create something that's easy, accessible, and I want to offer a number of them so that if one didn't really land, another could. So all these different practices are just from things that I've tried out. Like it's things that I've tried that have landed with me from, again, a variety of different modalities, traditions.
So what the class is the main part is a video that you can watch, and it's other people participating in the class, and you can try the techniques and exercises with them. One of the questions I had about it, because you often ask at the end if it worked or what the person felt or how it affected them. And you were just saying right now about, it's a variety of different tools, so you can kind of take what works and what doesn't work. This might be an obvious question, but how do you know if it works? Because that was something that I was wondering. Is an actual sensation change in your body kind of thing when you do the techniques?
Yeah. I do this in all my classes. I always like to start with a baseline. Like, where are we starting from?
Okay, well, let's do it then. So my baseline.
Well, close your eyes.
Okay.
Just close your eyes.
I gotta adjust myself. Let me have a quick sip of coffee.
Yeah,
my baseline is I'm on my second coffee. Okay. My eyes are closed.
Yeah, so close your eyes and just take a moment. And just give yourself a moment to arrive. Right? And so we can physically be somewhere, but our minds are kind of elsewhere. And so just imagine you're just drawing in and gathering all the threads of your attention and your awareness and just bringing them here. And you may notice that as you begin this process, you take a deeper breath, or you might shift your body around. Whatever arises, just allow it to complete. And then take a moment and check in with how you are. And not necessarily go into storyline or detail, right? Just the feeling tone of how you are. And then when you're ready to, you can come out of that. So checking with your baseline can be a really helpful practice. Just get a sense of where you're starting from, and then we can get a sense of how these techniques can shift us.
It's amazing how we can probably go for weeks, months, years without even just doing that. Because when you guided me through that and I just closed my eyes and I just allowed all the things that I'm feeling and thinking to sort of come and then wash away if they needed to wash away while I was listening to you. And I thought, I don't know if this makes sense, but it was like all of that stuff was there. But when I wasn't acknowledging it, it was manifesting in all these other ways. And then I just took it in. And I often find myself that when I do this kind of thing, sometimes I get a little self-conscious about like, ooh, am I itchy or do I need to adjust? Or like sometimes those thoughts come in. But I don't know. There was something about making it present. I guess you're talking about checking in with the baseline that is quite nice. It's quite a nice. You know what I was thinking though when you were doing it? Because I know you have kids. How old are your kids?
6, 8, and 10.
I was thinking, oh, you've got 3. I was thinking like, oh, do you do this like every morning with them at the breakfast table? It'd be so nice.
No, I do not.
I was thinking, what a gift though for those kids if that's what you did.
Yeah.
If that was possible. Okay, so we've got the baseline.
Yeah.
What's the next step then?
And then I would go into a technique. So specifically with the Anti-Anxiety Toolkit, I would say, okay, where do you feel that anxiety in your body?
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I do, and it was interesting when I was watching the class because you differentiated between stress and anxiety. Can you actually just remind me what the difference is? If you don't remember exactly what you said in it, it was something to do with, well, anxiety has to do with like past or future, right?
It's
and
something
stress
that
is what's happening now.
Yeah, stress is something that is like, it's like actually going to happen. Like you're running for the bus and you might not get, like that's stress. Whereas anxiety is
the thinking around it.
Yeah, like, oh,
I might not get the bus in an hour or something like that.
Or that there's
or I regret the way I spoke to someone when I got on the bus or something like that. Past
it's like anxiety is like, it tends to be like an internal conversation that can keep going. Do you notice I'm doing the spin?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know why I'd never thought about this before, but I never really thought about the difference because I might be having a difficult day and say, oh, I'm so stressed. But actually, I think it's kind of important because stress, for example, lifting weights is a stress on your muscles. And that is a good stress. And stress is growth oftentimes. And we need stress in many ways.
Yeah.
Whereas anxiety, I think, the thinking around events, probably more of it, at least for me, is anxiety than it is stress in life. Probably more of what I'm feeling. So you asked where I feel it. I feel it like right in the core of my belly.
Yeah.
Like when I feel anxiety, or in the past, maybe I would call it stress, but it's like a tightening of the stomach.
Yeah.
That's where I feel it.
Yeah.
So that would be the answer to your question of where I feel it.
So then we would try a technique and notice if there's a change in maybe the texture of the in your belly, or maybe there's a change in color. So it's drawing our attention to it, just becoming aware again of the feeling tone.
Yeah.
And then use a technique and see if it changes.
Do you know what's interesting? So obviously in preparation for this interview, I watched the full video and tried these techniques. And I sometimes, whether it be yoga or meditation, or if I'm being guided through a class, or techniques like this that have to do with various ways of, dealing with anxiety, I think I don't know, maybe it's that I judge them or I judge myself a lot. And I think about, because when I'm caught up in it, I had a bit of a gift yesterday where I had an anxiety-inducing event that made me stressed and anxious about other things. And sometimes when that washes over me, it starts in the belly and then it kind of moves through the whole body. And it sort of happened in an hour or two right before I was going to research for this conversation. And so I'm watching it, not necessarily, and trying these techniques. And I don't know, part of me is thinking, okay, well, let's see. And the other part of me is not really, I'm not being super clear with how I describe this, but it's almost like it's not that I didn't believe it wasn't going to work, but I sort of didn't even connect the two in a way. Because I feel like when I have a stress or anxiety event, somebody says something happens, I find out something that I wanted to do isn't going to happen, whatever it is in my life, it goes back to this not in control thing. It goes back to this, like, I'm distracted by my phone. These things are happening to me. So when I'm in it, when I'm caught up in anxiety, it's almost like the concept of getting out of it is impossible unless I eat a large pizza or sleep or something like that. And so I was really intrigued. And basically all of this to say, I can't remember which technique was first, but I was doing these, and one of them is called bilateral stimulation. Can you tell us about that? And then I'll tell you sort of my experience in doing it.
Okay.
So tell us what bilateral stimulation is.
So bilateral stimulation is when we take an object and we pass it through the midline of the body. And anxiety tends to happen or we experience in kind of one hemisphere of the brain. And so when we use a technique of passing something through the midline, we're flooding both sides of the brain with blood and helping to almost like diffuse that intensity that you were experiencing. So that's the technique of bilateral stimulation, where you're physically passing something through your hands.
So you have an object. It could be a ball. It could be a pen. It could be keys, something. And you have it in your right hand and then you pass it to your left. So if you're listening to this, where you could be on the bus, on the tube, or you could be at home, wherever. I love this one because it's an easy one to do kind of wherever without even anyone.
You see kids doing it.
I could be doing it right now as we're having this conversation. I've got a pencil in my hand and I'm passing it back and forth. And it doesn't seem, maybe it's slightly distracting if I was talking to anyone else in an interview, but it's definitely a thing you can do out and about in the world. And so what happened, I was trying this. And I encourage you, if you're listening along, just to do it while you're listening, especially if you're feeling anxious about something, because the feeling in my stomach just went away when I did it. And I was really not thinking any of these things are going to work. Not that I was judgmental of them in any way, but I just didn't make the connection of my own. I was like, well, my anxiety, my issue is special or something, meaning like it doesn't just go away with these techniques. So anyways, I'm just watching along, kind of doing it, but I'm not doing it in a way that I would say is a conscious way. I'm just sort of doing it. And then the feeling in my stomach just completely went away.
Nice.
And I went, oh. And then I thought to myself, you know what's interesting? So in my other life outside of podcasting, I teach acting and I direct plays. So I'm often in a room with other people, and usually as a warm-up, we play a game with a ball. So I usually have one, if not more, kind of bouncy balls or things like that. And I didn't even realize this, just have it in my hand and I'm throwing it around back and forth. And I'm like unconsciously doing it. And it's almost like I was like, oh, do I sort of regulate and kind of do this without even realizing it? So is that a thing? Like people, maybe there are certain things that we've realized that we just naturally already do.
100%. And I just saw you, like the backward spin. I mean, we're not going to do it now, but yeah, our bodies, our unconscious minds, our bodies, like they naturally will do these kinds of, like you think about kids, like you can see kids, they're just like passing something through their hands. And you said the word like regulation, like self-regulation is a really big thing where we can not overly control, but we can regulate our responses. And that's a really powerful thing that we can do, to use these kind of techniques so that we're not moving through the world with our anxiety.
What's the backward spin that you're talking about, just so I know?
Oh, okay. So the backward spin is, can I do the technique on you?
Go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
I'm a guinea pig.
so take a moment and think of something, a situation that creates anxiety for you. You can close your eyes if you want. And then open your eyes. And can you show me where it is in your body?
Yeah, it's like right in the center
of my
stomach.
So you already see you're already doing like a little circle there, right? So keep going with that, okay? And then start to take the circle and move it away from your body. So just keep circling that same direction. That's it. And then move it a little further away and then make it smaller and bigger.
Smaller and bigger.
Or sorry, slower. See, laughter is a disassociate.
Smaller?
No. So
Wait.
slower and bigger.
Slower and bigger. Got it.
Okay. Yeah. And then go the opposite direction. Okay. What are you noticing?
I mean, I have to think a little bit more because it's not the natural way.
Yeah. Back to that anxiety that you were feeling.
Yeah. It seems to be going away, but I will be completely open and honest in that when I started it, it wasn't like the thing that I thought of that was anxiety inducing. I wasn't able to recall it in the same way that like in the last, couple weeks, this thing that I thought of in my brain, because I was kind of manufacturing it.
Okay,
But that's one of the things,
right.
I did feel like it was dissipating a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be, it's one of those things where sometimes I feel like I really don't want to almost fake it.
Don't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I also don't want to say it doesn't work. And this is where I sometimes find it really difficult, because I was thinking when I was watching this, until it suddenly worked without me realizing it, that I feel like I get stuck in my head sometimes with these sort of techniques. So it's like if I'm in a class and you're telling me to throw a ball back and forth, I feel like now I've got a magnifying glass on this thing. Okay, is it going to work? I'm looking at the stomach. I'm thinking about where I feel the anxiety. And I'm almost watching it too much for it to go away, which is why my experience yesterday when I was watching your video was really kind of profound without using too big of a word, in the sense that...
I'll take that word.
Yeah. Use it as a quote on your website. No, but it is because I was not trying to make it work, muscling my way through it. I was sort of just doing it, not expecting it to work, having, the universe gave me a gift of a stress, an anxiety-inducing thing earlier in that day. And so then I went, okay, in order to do the research for this interview, I'm going to follow through this and do this. And then it just happened. And then sort of backwards, looking back at it, I went, whoa, hang on, I did that thing. I did one or two others and nothing really changed. And then I did this one, passing the ball back and forth between my hands. And suddenly the tension in my stomach was gone. So it's one of those tricky things where I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like, do you find that sometimes like putting too much pressure on yourself when doing these types of techniques to make it work sometimes works against it in a way? Or what do you think?
I mean, I think we are in a kind of a superficial environment in that I'm asking you to find some anxiety and locate it. And in your day-to-day, you will just feel that anxiety somewhere. And the hope is that you can just employ the techniques. Is that the right word? Use the techniques in real life. And like if I'm in a coaching session, then like someone has come to me with something specific. But here, as we're having a conversation,
there's another one that I liked that I thought was really interesting. And I actually did it on the tube on the way here because I thought this would be an interesting experiment. And it was, I don't know if there's an official title for it. It's just peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Tell us about peripheral vision.
Shall we try it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So take a seat, bring both feet to the floor. Let your hands rest onto your thighs and just find a point in front of you, just about eye level.
And so if you're listening along at home, you're
do try.
Sitting, or if you're on the bus, you got your feet on the floor and you're finding something across from you to focus on. And
preferably not a screen or a device.
Okay, I was looking at the clock, so I'm going to switch.
So you're just having this gaze at something just in front of you, not too tight, not too loose, but keep your eyes there. And then without actually moving your eyeballs, right? You're just keeping your eyes where they are. Begin to expand your vision to the sides of the room, to the walls, to the ceiling, to the floor, to the space behind your head. Just feeling this expansion. And then when you're ready to, let's slowly bring our eyes back to where they were. And then maybe blink your eyes, give yourself a little shake.
Yeah, I find this one quite peaceful, actually. I found that when I was trying it yesterday. And then again on the tube. It's actually, if anyone rides on noisy public transport, tell us, I mean, I don't know if there is science behind it or whatever, but what's behind that technique in terms of why it's my experience, not knowing anything about it, is I just find it kind of calms me down when I do that.
Yeah. So it's anxiety again, it tends to be like a conversation, a dialogue in your head. And so we're just kind of focusing on one space and then just kind of expanding out into the world without losing our focus. So kind of shifting out. So out. And it kind of softens it almost. And it kind of quiets the mind in a way. You said you felt calmer.
Yeah.
Because it can just go at such a speed. So when we can just focus ourselves and just kind of expand outwards, it can have a calming effect.
It's really interesting because I never thought about focusing on. So if you're trying this at home while you're listening, I mean, just to reiterate, you're sitting somewhere. I guess you could do it standing, but you're sitting somewhere. You're focusing on one point on the wall or an object on a shelf or something across from you. And you stay focused on that object, but then through your guidance or doing it on your own, you start focusing on everything else that you can see around you. So your peripheral vision, but you're not moving the focus of your eyes to those things, just to be clear. And first of all, I never thought of that because, of course, our peripheral vision, I'm really curious, what's behind that, because our peripheral vision is a part of how we navigate the world, obviously. I'm sure we need it to be aware if there's someone like creeping up, beside me, and I need to be aware of that, or there's a car coming or whatever it is. So that's really interesting, focusing on the one thing but then allowing yourself to have an awareness of everything else. Why do you think that creates a calming effect?
I have no idea.
It's interesting.
I'm not sure. But I will say these two techniques so peripheral vision in the yoga class or yoga tradition or the practice, we have what's called the dristi, where your gaze is at a single point in front of you, and it helps with balance and focus. But it's always like you have your dristi, but it's not fixed, it's not hard, it's soft, and it just, I don't know, it's so interesting that technique is also something that is used in yoga as well. And then with the bilateral stimulation, there's a pranayama, a breathing practice called alternate nostril breathing, where it does the same thing, where you alternate through breathing through one nostril and then the other nostril.
Yeah, it's almost like I was thinking, anxiety for me is, there's a couple things. One, there's a feeling of I'm not in control of my thoughts, because often for me, anxiety comes up with something's happened or I'm worried about something happening, past or future kind of thoughts. And I'm spinning in my mind of the different things. Here I am moving my
Go the other way, go the other way, go the other way.
Go the other way. Okay, that's really interesting. So just for the listener, I was sort of moving my hand to explain something.
And slow it down.
And Sue encouraged me to slow it down and move it the other way. I do. It does sort of put a calming effect.
It kind of like,
and it also kind of, it kind of jerks me into something different.
Yeah, because your brain's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Because
Yeah.
it was following that pattern and it interrupted that pattern.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It's that pattern interrupt. It's
Yeah.
like you feel anxiety. Okay, oh, there it is. I'm going to stop. I'm going to use something to kind of mix it up.
But the thing with the peripheral vision that I was just thinking is there's a beautiful kind of, it's almost like a metaphor. I'm looking at this object on the shelf on the wall, and in anxiety, I'm spinning around this one thing, this one event, this one idea, this one thought. And it's like the peripheral is going, there's a lot more.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot more. You can still look at that thing, but there's a lot
still there.
more.
It's
still there. It doesn't have to go away. You don't have to, because what you resist persists. We know that. What you try to get rid of is going to come back
like
more.
Like the beach ball in the water.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So we've got peripheral vision. We've got bilateral stimulation, really powerful.
Do you see the backward spin?
And the backward spin, moving something in a different direction. What's your favorite, or what do you find is the most out of those, or any others?
The one that I probably use more is EFT, emotional freedom technique, the tapping, where you're tapping various meridians. I use that one quite a lot, and also bilateral.
A lot of it seems to be kind of creating a point of focus or changing a pattern physically and mentally.
And I just also want to say, like, I really encourage you to try it out. You know, just try it out. And if it doesn't work, cool. Try something else. There are things out there that can help.
Yeah, and I also think...
Like, don't take my word for it, try it out.
And if there's a way, I would encourage, and this is me saying this to myself just as much as anyone else, to somehow do it when you're in that moment. Because the last thing I want to do when I'm washed over with anxiety is this. Like, I just want to wallow in it. It's like we do.
Oh, it feels so good.
We want to wallow, we want to eat, we want to numb with food or whatever your thing is. And what I love about this is it's not forcing me to go to the gym because I know it'll feel better, or go to a yoga class or any of these things. It's just a quick grab an object back and forth. You can do it with your, still feeling frustrated and angry, but it might make you feel better.
And that's the hope.
Yeah.
That's the hope. Easy, simple techniques that can just bring you back to baseline.
Can you believe it? We're at our time. Sue,
No,
the time goes by so fast. I have one more question for you, though. So I like to ask everybody, because we have a segment at the Big Smoke where we talk to our guests as well as people out in the world, on the streets and everything, how they find connection and community. And we call this segment Parish Notices. So, Sue, do you have any parish notices for us this week?
I have recently joined an all-female gym, and they have classes, and it's been so much fun. We're all just getting strong together, and it's been so much fun. Just real medicine. I'm getting strong, I'm in community, and we're laughing.
Amazing.
Such medicine for me, yeah.
Classes, I think that's a good one, because then you're... You got to show up.
You got to show up.
Your community there.
You got your community there, and if you can surround yourself with people who are part of the same vibe, same energy, then it just makes it that much more. Because we're collective.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Big Smoke.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I had a lot of fun.
When the bells ring out across the Big Smoke, we like to hear how you are fostering connection and community. Our correspondent Ahmed is the perfect person to explore what this means because his community involvement is off the charts. So this week, we asked him to share a little window into his world.
Moving to a new country is kind of like starting a marathon you didn't sign up for. Hi, I'm Ahmed, a young African man living far from home, my childhood, and honestly, everything I once knew, and now learning every single day what it really means to find your place in the world. And today, I'm here as your Parish Notice correspondent, a special segment for the Big Smoke variety show where we talk about connection, belonging, and the people who turn strangers into family. Moving to a new whole country is tough. The culture's different. The weather's colder way too often. I felt like a stranger everywhere I went. But something unexpected happened. See, I've always loved running. It's just something that clears my mind. Something gives me peace and keeps me grounded. And honestly, it all started with just running, minding my own business on the track. Then boom, the next thing I know, I'm meeting people, making friends, and suddenly I'm everywhere. Now I'm part of all these wide and wonderful communities, from modeling to football and to even studying law. I mean, who would thought? I found out about the running charity through our campus collective. And through these spaces, I found a community. Not just people I could run with, but people I could laugh with, learn from, and lean on. People who become like a family. Because honestly, family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about connection. And speaking of a connection, where here I am standing on the running track, laced up with my coach right beside me, ready to hit the ground. Our coach, it's so good to have you here today.
It's a pleasure being here.
Let's kick things off simple for our listeners. For those who don't know you already, tell us your name and a little bit about what you do.
My name is Claude Muhira. I am as well as you, I am a refugee in this country. I've been in this country since I was 10 years old. And I'm a program manager of the running charity. We work with young people like yourselves, and we work with them on all aspects of health. So your physical health, but as well as, most importantly, your mental health as well, and also giving you a community that you feel safe in and you feel accepted in.
Brilliant. Thank you, Coach. Now you've worked with so many people from different backgrounds. If you could sum it up in just a few words, what does community mean to you?
Community is a home away from home. Community is a group of people who are not necessarily the people who you grew up with, but are the people who you decide to be around. Community reflects who you are as a person. So, I feel like at the Running Charity we've created like a really positive community, an ambitious community. People who look at a marathon and think, yeah, I can do that. And that's the type of energy that fuels me to work with young people like yourselves.
Love that. And finally, from your personal experience, how has working in this community and doing what you do impacted your life?
For me, most importantly, running saved my life, and being given an opportunity to then offer that same tool, the same method that I used to change my life around, giving back to the community is really important to me. It's something that makes me feel like I'm achieving something every day, really, and seeing young people who never considered themselves to be runners, but not only run really, really fast, but also take on amazing challenges like the London Marathon or other marathons that we're doing. It fuels me, makes me feel like I'm leaving a lasting impact in my community.
Thank you so much, Coach. Honestly, talking to you, I feel inspired because at the end of the day, life is a long journey, sometimes even a lonely one. But community makes the road easier. It reminds you that you belong somewhere, not just at the finish line, but every step of the way. Literally, it's people who turn strangers into friends and friends into family, reminding you that you are not alone out here. Big love to my guest today, Coach Claude. Thank you again for your time and sharing your wonderful words. I will catch you next time on the Big Smoke Variety Show. Until then, take care of yourself. Now it's time to hit the ground. By the way, how many K are we doing today?
Today we are doing, so we've got a marathon coming up, so I think we'll be doing 7K today, so a few people will be happy to hear.
Whoa, I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
Thanks for introducing us to your coach, Ahmed. If you'd like to learn more about the running charity and Coach Claude's work, you'll find a link in the show notes. Welcome to a new curious and cryptic segment. With the help of some well-placed and generous individuals with access to vaults of audio recordings, we've been able to assemble a collection of never-before-heard snippets of voices long lost. For some reason or another, these recordings were deemed significant contributions worth keeping in the catalog of human histories. But more intriguingly, they were determined to be worth obscuring from the ears of the public. While their value and the reason for their obfuscation may not be immediately evident, they are sure to tickle their way into your inner ear. This is Audio Archives. Today we have an interesting, if not peculiar, selection. Our recording today comes from the world of switchboard operators. Long before we walked around with the convenience of doom in our pockets, we had to engage in the subtle art of interacting with a stranger whenever we wished to make a call. Some of our older listeners may remember it well, if they've been eating their vegetables and maintaining a healthy exercise regime. This recording comes from the Department of External Relations and Customer Ethics at the Bureau of Telecommunication Oversight. To ensure that operators were held to the highest standards of customer service, these calls would be recorded. Once a month, tapes would be thrown out without incident. This one, however, was the final shift of one Catherine Ellington. It can be safely assumed that she failed to hold herself to the standards of the Bureau, but there's no file indicating which call resulted in her termination. All we know is that after this shift, she was never seen by her colleagues again. Listen closely to her final shift and see if you can determine which was the call that sealed her fate. Perhaps you may discern some hidden context. Now, prepare to enjoy the treat of a visit back in time.
Operator, how may I help you? Certainly, madam. I just need the number or your son's name. Don't worry, madam. Take your time. You can call back when you're ready if you like. You don't have to stay on the line. We'll be here when you call back. I promise I'm not trying to get rid of you, madam. Have you found the number? No, I don't think I know your son. He sounds a bit older than me, perhaps. No, that's very kind of you, but I prefer to meet people the old-fashioned way. Do you have his name and address? If so, I can pass you through to the directory and they can help you. You don't need to give it to me. I'll pass you on to directory and you can give them the address. Is that all right? No problem, madam. Have a nice day. Operator, how may I help you? Hello, sir. Yes, I can answer your questions. I'm sorry, sir. That's not a question I can answer. If that's all, I'm going to hang up now. No, thank you. I will not stay on the line. If you don't need to place a call, then we are done. Operator, how may I help you? Hello? And how old are you, dear? Of course you are. Well, to answer your question, it's 3:30 in the afternoon. Is everything all right? Would you like to place a call? Are you in danger? Is your mother there? Can you please put her on the line? There are no parents with you. Is that normal? Would you like me to contact the police? You would like to place a call? Oh, if you want to place a call, you can ask your mother to phone for you when she's home. How does that sound? Okay. Bye. Thank you. Operator, how may I help you? No problem. Do you have the name of the hotel and the name or room number of the guest? The room number is fine if you have it. 1222. Copy that. Please wait while I patch you through. Oh, yes? I'm sorry? No, madam. Once you reach your party, I will be disconnected right away. Your privacy is important to us. Yes, as soon as he picks up, I will be hanging up, connecting you to Grand Chariot, room 1222. Please hold. Madam, you're being connected. Once Mr. Grant answers, I will hang up my line. Oh! Operator, how may I help you? You again. I told you, sir, I can't answer your questions. What? How could you possibly know that? Well, you must have mistaken me for someone else. No, that's not me. No. My name isn't Catherine, it's Joanne. Please don't call again. Operator, how may I help you? Yes, we can help with those things. Would you like me to place a call for you? No problem. Might I recommend a taxi service, perhaps? Absolutely. Let me transfer you to a taxi dispatch. Oh, you're welcome. That's kind of you. Connecting you now. Operator, how may I help you? Hello, sir. I see you're calling from a room at the Grand Chariot. Is there a call you're hoping to place? You need tickets. What for, sir? I can transfer you to the stadium if you like. You promised her you had tickets to something. So now you're asking me to help you think of something you'd need tickets for. Something romantic or something last minute? I can't guarantee both, sir. But personally, I love the museum. Or the gallery, downtown. I hardly think she'd kill you, sir. Now, if you don't need me to connect you to someone, I think you should probably call back when you're ready. Let me check the Opera House's programme. Here we are. Tonight is Rigoletto. It's very upbeat. Definitely feel good. Yes. Let me connect you to the box office. Operator, how may I help you? Oh, hello again. Sorry for the long wait, sir. I can put you through to Taxi Dispatch and you can ask them for an update. Well, sir, that depends on where you are and what time it is. Do you need to speak to the taxi company? It's coming up on rush hour, sir. I'd recommend setting up camp in a cafe or something if you're not in a hurry. Cooper's Coffee. Yes, it's excellent. I know that place. It's near the gallery, isn't it? You did? How was it? Wow. I've always wanted to do that with someone. Sorry, sir. Yes. About your taxi. I can't personally send a car. I'm sorry, sir. Let me put you through to the taxi company. If they said they sent a car, it should be there soon. Oh, nothing. If you don't need to make a call, I suppose. Good luck. Hope the rain lets up. Operator, how may I help you? Sir, you need to stop calling. This isn't an open conversation line. You're wrong. That's not me. I'm not Catherine. I'm Julie, I told you. Joanne. Fine. How do you know that? You're bluffing. My doorman wouldn't allow it. No. Please, don't. Okay, fine. Yes, I remember you. Fine. 7 o'clock. I'll be in the lobby. Operator, how may I help you? Hello?
A most charming window into the sounds of history there. Catherine Ellington was terminated by the Bureau shortly after this recording, and no further shifts of hers were preserved in the archives. The reason for this untimely extermination still evades us. Perhaps those of you more gifted in the realm of nuance and context may be able to identify which conversation sealed her fate. Any breakthroughs from our own community would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for participating in this week's edition of Audio Archives. In the heart of Londinium, Lugdenham, London town, let's just call it the Big Smoke, is our River Thames. It is the living, breathing artery of our city, rising and falling every day with the tide. Because it is uniquely a tidal river, there are a group of licensed historians called Mudlarks who bring themselves to the foreshore every day and with only the naked eye help uncover the history of London in an effort to learn about the everyday people who have inhabited our corner of the world. So, it's time for us to venture down to the river and visit with Sean Clark the Mudlark to find out what has found him lately.
Hello Big Smoke listeners, it's Sean Clark down here at the Thames foreshore, and I wanted to tell you about a special object that found me very recently. But before we get going, let me tell you a bit about myself. I stumbled upon mudlarking in 2020 after my beautiful wife Trudy passed away. The peacefulness of the foreshore and the magic of the River Thames giving up its secrets on every tide is quite spiritual to me. I like to say that the artefacts find me rather than the other way round. Bone dice, beads, pilgrim badges and coins are some of the treasures that I've added to my collection of foreshore finds. But trade tokens are the things that I love the most. These small copper tokens send you on a journey of research and discovery, uncovering the lives and stories of the traders who issued them over 350 years ago, during one of the most turbulent periods in our history. There were over 15,000 traders who issued tokens between 1648 and 1672. Over 5,000 issuers in London alone.
So, what do you have for us today, Sean Clark?
Today's find is a Roman bone die. This amazing tiny Roman bone die was nestled between some shingle on a cold morning. Just above it was a broken clay pipe stem, probably dating from the 17th century, and just below it was the worn part of a cloven hoof from a butchered sheep or goat, possibly from the same period. There are hundreds of animal bones on the Thames foreshore, and they all seem to be together. Bone tends to go to bone on the foreshore. I always check these areas for worked bone. Things such as dice, knife handles and buttons will all be hiding amongst the butchered bones. The die itself has so much character. It is very wonky and has no real symmetry that you would expect to find on the medieval or post-medieval dice. The numbers are the dot and ring style that the Romans used. There are numerous beautiful cut marks on all sides of the die, and you can see how it was made some 2,000 years ago. I have now found 23 bone dice on the Thames foreshore, all different textures and sizes. People always comment on how small the dices are. This is because throughout certain periods of history, gambling was illegal. After the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, a law was passed making all men and boys of a certain age to practice archery every week. Naturally, this was because it was our longbows that won that famous battle. But in 1541 it was noted that no one was practicing archery anymore. So the Unlawful Games Act was passed, outlawing the playing of games such as card games and dice. These laws were not fully repealed until 1960. So all those football matches that took place on Christmas Day in the 1900s were technically illegal.
Wow. My gosh. Okay, for the listener, speaking of, I'm glad you mentioned that most people commented on how small they are, because that was going to be my question. This has got to be a quarter of the size of a regular dice or die, maybe even less smaller, but absolutely beautiful. The detail you can see. Were you saying you can see this?
The cut marks.
The cut marks in it, and wow! Again, I can't imagine how you found this and came across it, but it's absolutely beautiful. The detail. And how do you suppose they would have made? So the cuts that show you the numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are so perfectly round.
Yeah, but I actually have the waste from bone dice production.
Oh.
So you would get a rod of bone, you would square it off, you would do some test drill holes to make sure you was able to drill into it.
Yeah.
And then you would start at one end, cutting off your little cubes, and what I have left is just the waste bone where they couldn't make no more dices out of it.
Oh, wow.
And it does have the test drill holes in it as well.
Oh, God. What's your favorite thing about the Roman bone die?
What I love about the Roman die is the fact that someone 2,000 years ago either lost it or threw it in the river out of spite and temper because they just lost their game. We will never know.
I love the story that you can create when you find the object and you start to investigate why it was there, why it was thrown into the river. I personally, whenever I hear about the Roman artifacts that the Mudlarks uncover in the river, it's just, I don't know, there's something about it that just seems amazing. It's unbelievable to me that a 2,000-year-old object could be uncovered, so I love it. Well, what a beautiful window into history from Sean Clark the Mudlark. You can see an image of today's find if you follow us on Instagram at The Big Smoke Variety, or sign up to our newsletter at thebigsmokevariety.com. It's time to reveal the maple leaf. Was it Moosel Maps, Williams Lake Butts, or Butter Gretzky? Now's the time to pause the show, put on your Canadian thinking cap, eh? And if you need to go back and listen, you'll find the chapter links in the show notes. Here we go. The real Canadian headline was... from the Williams Lake Tribune. Recycling hero makes big haul of Williams Lake butts. Williams Lake super volunteer picks up 100 pounds of cigarette butts left behind as litter. Wilbur Saunders is showing William Lakers their butts. Cigarette butts, that is. Saunders, known for his incredible work cleaning up litter across the community over a decade, carefully sorts the waste he picks up, recycling as much as he can. Saunders spends time most days collecting garbage he finds along the roadways and in parking lots and other spots during the snow-free months of the year. After sorting it all, he was recently packing up and shipping around 100 pounds of cigarette butts, thanks to a partnership with the Caribou Chilcotin Conservation Society. Saunders had been collecting garbage and recycling the items he could for many years before he became aware of the possibility of recycling cigarette butts. Oliver Berger, a waste-wise educator with the CCCS, said it was the second time Saunders had collected such a haul, with last year being the first time the group had been able to collaborate with the Butt Champion, as Berger dubbed Saunders in a video post he made about the recovered waste. Now that is a maple leaf from the True North Strong and Free. If you'd like to read the full article, you'll find a link in the show notes. Well, that's our show. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got new episodes out every fortnight, so don't forget to follow on your podcast app of choice. If you're interested in a peek behind the curtain or finding out more info on our fantastic guests, sign up to our newsletter at thebigsmokevariety.com. Thanks for listening.